Let's start by installing Blender. Go to blender.org, click on download, and then download the latest version available. When it's finished downloading, go to your downloads folder and install. Click next, accept the terms in the license agreement, next, and install. When it's finished installing, you should find a shortcut on your desktop. You can drag this into your taskbar and delete the one from your desktop to keep your desktop nice and clean, and then click on the one in your taskbar. Hit continue on this splash screen. Every time you open Blender, this splash screen will open up. To stop this from happening, go to Edit, Preferences, and uncheck Splash Screen. And now when you open up Blender, no splash screen. There are many useful settings in Preferences, and a handy shortcut to access them is Control, Comma. Blender's interface is separated into three main parts. The top bar at the very top consists of the main menu, workspace tabs, and some data block menus. The main area in the middle is the workspace, and this particular one is called the layout workspace. The status bar at the bottom displays shortcut suggestions and relative statistics. The layout workspace is the default workspace and consists of 4 areas containing editors. The editors are the 3D viewport, the outliner, properties, and timeline. Each of these offer a specific piece of functionality. You can resize areas by dragging their borders with the left mouse button. Move the mouse cursor over the border between 2 areas so that the cursor changes to a double-headed arrow, and then click and drag. You can move left and right or up and down depending on the border. You can split an area into 2 new areas by placing the mouse cursor in an area corner until it changes to a cross, then place and hold the left mouse button and drag diagonally into an area. You can also join 2 areas by dragging an area corner into the space of another area. Or if you find this a bit fiddly, you can right-click over the border between 2 areas and join them using the option there. There are several ways to customize the layout, so take your time and explore and get familiar with it. Don't worry, you can't really break anything. Becoming familiar with the layout will help you quickly restore things if something changes or goes missing. One useful feature is the ability to expand an area so that it fills the whole window. To do this, hover the cursor over the area that you wish to expand and press Ctrl, Alt and Spacebar. And it's the same shortcut to come out of full screen. As well as arranging and resizing the areas, you can also set which editors are being displayed inside them. As I mentioned before, this workspace consists of a 3D viewport, the outliner, properties, and a timeline. But we can change any of these areas to display any editors that we want. For example, if we want this area to display another 3D viewport, we can click on the Editor Type button and choose 3D viewport from the selection by pressing the left mouse button. Workspaces are essentially predefined window layouts. Each workspace consists of a set of areas containing editors geared towards a specific task. To switch between the workspaces, click on these tabs. "3D modeling is the process of creating a digital representation of a 3-dimensional object or scene. Blender is primarily known for its polygon or mesh-based modeling capabilities, including subdivision surface modeling. Polygon geometry is made up of 3 components: vertices or singular vertex, edges, and faces. While we're here, I'm just quickly going to increase the size of the vertices by pressing Ctrl, to bring up preferences. In the Themes tab, selecting 3D viewport and scrolling down to vertex size and increasing this to 6. Connecting two vertices makes an edge, and a face is made up of 3 or more vertices with edges connecting them. Faces made up of 3 edges are known as triangles or tris, 4 edges quads, and a shape with more than 4 edges is known as an n-gon. Click on the cube and a light orange outline will indicate that it's the active element. You will also notice that it's highlighted in the outliner. The outliner shows the contents of this blend file in a tree. We can use the outliner to organize our file by putting objects into groups called collections. If we press X, we can delete the cube, and notice it's also gone missing from the outliner. If we press Shift and A, we can get a list of items that we can add to our scene. Let's go to Mesh and add a new cube. With the cube still selected, press G. Now moving the mouse around will move the cube in 3D space. Right-click to undo the Move command and put the cube back to its starting position. Press G again and notice the status bar shows a list of options related to the active command, in this case G, which is Move. If we press X, Y or Z for example, the movement will be constrained to those axes. To keep the changes, press left mouse button. To ignore the last changes, press right mouse button. If we press R, we can rotate an object. And if we press S, we can scale it. And remember to check the status bar. Make sure the cursor is inside the 3D viewport and press N to open the sidebar, and we'll see the transform panel in the item tab at the top. Here we can view and manually and precisely control the position, rotation and scale of the active element. If we left click and drag down, we can enter one number and it will change it in all 3 fields. Let's click on the overlays, check origins, and you'll notice a dot in the middle of the cube. This is the cube's origin point. In other words, this is the point that the transform information is referring to. So when it says that the coordinates of this cube is 0, 0, 0, it is referring to this origin point. And likewise, if we rotate or scale it, it will be rotating and scaling around this point. The relevance of this will become more obvious later in the tutorial. As well as moving the object, we can move our view of the 3D viewport. We can pan, zoom and rotate by holding down Shift and middle mouse button to pan, Control and middle mouse button to zoom, and middle mouse button to rotate. We can change the middle mouse button to pan instead of rotate by going to Preferences, Key Maps tab, and change middle mouse button action to pan. Currently, we are seeing the cube from a user perspective view, but if we click on any of these axes on the navigation gizmo, we will go into an orthographic view. If your navigation gizmo is not visible, click on the Show Gizmo button in the 3D viewport overlay. To manipulate an object's vertices, edges or faces, we go to Edit mode. Make sure the object is active and click on the Mode selector and choose Edit mode. Notice next to the Mode selector we now have 3 buttons. These are the 3 selection modes: vertices, edges and faces. The shortcut for these is 1 for vertices, 2 for edges and 3 for faces. Let's go to vertex select mode and left click near or on a vertex to select it. Now press G, and just like in object mode, we can now move the active vertex. The same goes for edges and faces. Remember, when you move something, it's right click to undo it, or left click to leave it where you've moved it to. If we click on Viewport Gizmos drop-down menu and check Move, we'll get an Object Move gizmo every time we select something. This means that whatever we select, we can move it immediately by selecting one of the axis arrows and dragging it without having to press the G shortcut. If you select a vertex and press E and move the cursor, you'll create a new vertex and an edge between the two vertices. Now you can left click and press E again to continue making extrusions. Let's go into an orthographic view. Edit mode, vertex select mode, E to extrude once, left click to confirm new vertex position, repeat once and twice. If we want to place this vertex in exactly the same position as this one, we can use snapping. Click on the snapping drop-down menu and choose vertex. Turn on snapping, and now when we move the vertex close to another one, it will snap to it. Another type of snapping is grid. Let's select it from the menu and move the vertex up. It will be snapping to the grid as I move it. Let's activate vertex snapping again and also turn on auto merge vertices. Now this time when I move this vertex, it will be merged with the vertex that I snap it to. If I select a vertex and press Ctrl D and move the cursor, I will duplicate the vertex. If 3 or more vertices are selected, pressing F will create a face. If 2 vertices are selected, pressing F will build an edge between them. If 2 edges are selected, pressing F will create a face. If we select a face and press X, we get the delete confirmation box. Selecting vertices will delete any vertices which are a part of this active selection. So in this case, it's these, and deleting them will cause this. So actually, when we got that face selected in face mode and we go to vertex mode, we can see which vertices are selected. So when we delete vertices now, we can see why that's happened. If we want to delete just that face, we go to delete and make sure we only select faces. If I want to select multiple vertices, I hold down the Shift button as I'm selecting. What Blender will do is it will select the edges in between neighbouring vertices. If you select all the vertices of a face, it will auto select that face too. If we want to separate 2 connected components, we can use the Rip tool. In edit mode, go to vertex select mode, pick a vertex and press V and move the cursor. If we click the right mouse button now, the selected vertex will go back to its original position, but it will remain detached. So if we hit G now, we will only be moving one of the vertices. Let's undo that so the vertices are one again. A loop cut and slide tool lets you split a 4-sided face or a quad and any of its neighbouring quads. Press Ctrl and R to activate the tool and move the cursor near an edge. This will indicate where the edge will be cut. Left click once and then right click to put the cut halfway between the 2 edges. Immediately after confirming the cut, the Adjust Last Operation panel will appear. If you've gotten rid of this panel by clicking somewhere else, you get one chance to bring it up again by pressing F9, but this has to be immediately after it disappears. This gives you some further functionality to the tool, including adjusting the number of cuts and offsetting the cuts. Modifiers are automatic operations that affect an object's geometry in a non-destructive way. There are more than 50 modifiers and they are used to perform tasks which would otherwise take a lot longer to do manually. Throughout this tutorial, I'll be using some modifiers, and as I'm using them, I'll explain what they're doing. But let's have a quick look at where they are and how to use them. To add a modifier to an object, select the object and in the Properties panel, open the Modifiers tab by clicking on the wrench icon. Click on Add Modifier and choose Generate Bevel. Make sure the bevel modifier is expanded by clicking on the arrow next to its name, and here we can make adjustments to the modifier. We can add multiple modifiers and we'll always be able to make adjustments to their parameters. We can also rearrange the modifiers, make them not visible in the 3D viewport, or delete them. Extensions and add-ons are additional tools created by the Blender community to improve your workflow. There are many add-ons and extensions, and it can become very overwhelming researching which ones do what and if they would improve your workflow. I would recommend first learning how to do things manually, and then if you find that something is repetitive or tedious, then look for an add-on to help you. If you do use add-ons, I would strongly recommend knowing exactly what it does and how, so that you're confident with your work and it's helping you rather than you being a slave to it. With that in mind, I'll now install the add-ons that I'll be using throughout this tutorial. I'll just summarize what each one does for now, and when I come to using them, I'll explain what it's doing at the time. Control comma to open the preferences tab, and let's go to get extensions. Make sure allow internet is on. You only need to be on the internet while you download these, and install the following. Now that we're comfortable with the Blender interface and have explored some essential tools, we're ready to start building surfaces. In the next video, we'll dive into subdivision modeling, a powerful and widely used technique seen not only in polygon modeling, but also in professional tools like Autodesk Alias. Subdivision modeling allows for the creation of smooth, organic forms with precise control, making it a go-to method for both creative and technical workflows. We'll look at how to shape elegant, refined surfaces that balance fluidity with structure. Let's go!